I want to talk about the difference between working on um, the psychological effects of working when you're on site versus remote. One of the main things that people was doing is when you're working remote, you don't have to worry about people bothering you so much. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about people coming up to your desk, harassing you every 5 minutes. You don't have to repeat yourself 50 different times when somebody's asking the same thing. You could just copy and paste. I had an incident the other day where, and I think I'm gonna take it outside for a little bit, but I had an incident the other day where this guy's asking me a question, and I'm telling him, and this happens to the customer base too, but this guy's asking me a question, and I'm telling him something simple. I'm telling him, okay, this is the agenda, and he asks a few hours later again. Now, what that is, y'all, is that's really just that's just a piece. That's just a piece of micromanagement, really more so than anything. But the bigger point is, I'm just kind of being a little disrespectful to you now because I done already told you several different times. So now, what I did is I said, well, didn't I mention that to you about an hour ago or whatever the case may be? And he tried to make it seem like, oh, well, I'm just trying to make sure there's no new updates or whatever like that. It's like, okay, dude, I know what you're trying to do. Let's just be honest about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest about it. Another thing, what I started to do, and this will cut back on a lot of questions with people. When you're working on some kind of installations or whatever, case it may be, let's say you're on a project and you're dealing with kind of the same things over and over and over, you could make an email template. That to me works pretty good. An email template. And what I like about the email template is I'll tell them, all right, this is the location. This is where you're gonna, do your thing. This is how it's gonna be done. This is how the implementation is going to go. And so they don't have to keep on asking that. And I start getting to the point where I put it in bold. Now it's instructions, so it's not like I'm putting it in caps lock, like I'm trying to check somebody. It's not, it definitely ain't one of those kind of ordeals. It's more of a situation where, I just want to be clear. So I might repeat it a few times. There was another point that I wanted to make, but I can't remember exactly what it was. It was right on the tip. I only had about 4 hours of sleep, so I'm still trying to get, trying to compound all this information together. But once I put my schedule together and I use that thing I told y'all, now these are the games they kind of play a lot of times and when you're in a corporate environment. Now that you've already put the schedule on what you're going to be working on, they start thinking of other different ways to try to flim-flam. You see what I'm saying? So now it becomes, they're circling around your desk. They're starting to ask the same questions or whatever. And that's why I said, it gets repeated again. That's that Minnesota nice passive aggressive. Just repeat it again. And that's some of the psychological BS that goes on when you're going on site and you have to deal with somebody walking up. It's weird because if you've been working remote for a long time, you're just not used to that. It takes time to get used to the BS again. Remember, the workplace, that's their workplace. That's the devil's playground for them. So they're able to kind of pull different marionette strings and do all what they do. So I try to just fill up my day with everything that needs to get done and say, all right, here, I'm being productive. So they can't say you're not being productive, but it's very strange. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, you're doing the work, you're filling up the schedule, but they want some more. But they're not saying what it is. They're being very, very vague. They're not saying there's an issue. You know that there's something, but they're not saying it because they can't say that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But they want more. They want more of whatever it is. They want more of it, and I'm not giving it to them. You know what I'm saying? I don't until you tell me what you want. You're gonna have to be specific on exactly what you want, and then you're gonna have to, if I'm doing something that's not necessarily wrong but incorrect, you're going to have to tell me to correct that. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I started doing. I started putting the status in my software and everything, because it's like I say, it's very the mentality in a lot of these environments are very hyena. They're extremely cowardly. They're very behind the back. You can't take what they say at face value. They won't say what the hell they mean. You see what I'm saying? And so, and they don't want to be clear. So it's easier for them to just be passive aggressive about the situation. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, I'm going to act like I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just going to put my schedule together. And here's my schedule. I'm sharing you my schedule, because it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I start to think. It's kind of loud. What time is it? Oh, it's time to go. I started to kind of think, hey, we could walk and talk. I started to kind of think, well, maybe he's doing it to kind of get under my skin a little bit. And then, you know what? I figured I got to consider that. I have to consider that for the simple fact that we've already had a conversation about how things are going to go and what the understanding it is going to be. So, I'm still looking for those remote positions for those brothers, because I want to. If I can keep those brothers up out of that, man, I'm gonna keep them up out of that. Unless it's really worth it. But if it's up to me, I'm gonna find those brothers some remote positions, or find them a way to at least do hybrid. There was another position that just came up, so I'm gonna post that as well, and you might be able to just add some stuff to it. Doing it again with this joining drive. So turn this down a little bit. So look, now I can kind of get into a little more detail. When you're in a corporate environment, right, and if you're kind of minding your business, real bright today, if you're minding your business, right, and you're not partaking in, I'll say, certain situations or certain conversations, sometimes you can be considered as an outlier. Now, what some people will do is they say, we'll play the game and pay to play and this and all that here. And you know what? You can do that. But guess what? Not all the time will that save you. You're thinking that, well, if I butter up enough, I'm going to get a lot further and higher up the ladder. That works to a certain degree. For example, when I was at a large financial company downtown, and I told y'all in the second book where one of the supervisors, aka superior advisors, what she did was she basically said I had a problem with the team. I immediately go into the question mode. Okay, ma'am, what problem are we having? Well, you're not really gelling with the team. Okay, I said, has anybody been mistreated? Well, no, nobody's been mistreated. I said, has anything ethical occurred? Did anything? Oh, no, I'm not saying that. Then she threw her hands up. She said, you're overreacting. That's another little dog whistle that they do. When a white woman throws her hands up and starts waving them in the air, when you're speaking calm, and then she starts saying, hey, let's not be flustered. Let's not overreact. I'm like, ma'am, I'm very calm. I'm very calm. Let's not overreact. Let's not overthink this. When she starts changing her tone and starts talking about someone overreacting, she's talking about herself. She's not talking about you. What she's trying to do is she's trying to project and dog whistle her way into, well, he's getting upset. I said, ma'am, I'm very calm. I kept my voice at one octave. I did not raise my voice. I didn't increase my volume. I didn't modify my tone. I said, ma'am, I'm very calm. I'm not flustered. I said, let's get back to the subject. Has anybody been mistreated? She said, no one's been mistreated. Why would you think that? I said, well, you're saying that there's a problem. And I'm not gelling with the team. Has any of the team members reported that I've mistreated them? No. That's not really the case. And so she couldn't really come with something that I was doing. I said, have I done something wrong? Well, no, but and I said, well, let's just, you got to give me something, ma'am. It's just that, never mind. No, we're not going to do that. I said, because see, this one-on-one meeting was brought upon an issue. You're saying it's not an issue. You're saying I'm not gelling with the team. I said, have I answered all of the questions that the team has asked? She said, yes. I said, okay, well, I'm not quite sure. Now I know, in hindsight, I know. I'm like, okay, I'm just not kissing folks' ass and going to drink beer enough and stuff like that. I don't never go to the after hours. I'm on that express bus back to the city. You see what I'm saying? I'm on that express bus doing my due diligence. You see what I'm saying? So don't get confused when they start saying, well, gelling with the team. But see, gelling with the team is like it's a very underhanded passive aggressive tactic that they use to say that you're not participating in the little bullshit ass conversation, whether it be politics, whether it be video games, whether it be about rubbing on someone's balls, whatever it is. You're not participating in that. So what you're doing now is you're being divisive. That's what they're trying to say, is that you're being divisive. Now you're doing your job. You're coming to work on time. You're answering questions. You might partake in a conversation here and there. But see, what corporate America will lead you to believe is, if you just kiss a little bit more ass, and if you just partake a lot more in those conversations, then you'll get a leg up. Let me tell you about a situation that happened downtown. This brother was a high-level nigga. One of the higher levels that you can go. He was a director. And that was a situation where he says the higher you go, the worse it gets. So, in our mind, this is what we think. We think that just because you're at a so-called lower level position, the race soldiers will start changing their ways. It won't be as bad. The only difference is the pay. But he says the higher you go, the worse it gets. Now, what did he mean by that? I asked him. I said, what do you mean? He says, now he told me the situation rather than just explain it. He just said, look, I got in a room and I was told that I overdressed. That's another dog whistle they'll use. That's an underhanded backstabbing tactic that they use. Now, you're dressed professionally in a professional environment. Now, everybody else may be wearing Homie the Clown socks or whatever the case may be. But you being a black person, you're like, well, hell, I want to present myself in a certain way. I want to present myself so no one cannot say that I did not dress professional. So their first issue when he got in the meeting, oh, you're outshining us. You're dressing us. That's the Rosewood mentality. Remember when I had the big office out there in Burnsville? Oh, well, where'd you get this big office at? It's bigger than mine. I didn't ask for this office. I was put into this office. Somebody placed me into this office. I didn't choose this office. It was a nice damn office. I had a front window. I had an office that was better than the boss office. That's what the boss chose for me. The leader of the company, he wanted me to have that office. So they was big mad. Oh, they was mad. I had my door, I had a sliding door, and I had a closed door, and I had a big ass window. And I knew it was a problem because it wasn't just one person that came in there. It was the sales manager. It was several people of so-called authoritative positions that came in there looking around. I ain't never had no piano. I ain't never had no piano. Well, you don't know how to play a piano. It don't matter. That nigga got a piano. So that's where, when I saw that, that's what made me come up with the term the Rosewood mentality. So this brother's dressing well. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's doing his job. The first issue that he told me they hit him with, you're dressing better than everybody. He's like, well, I want to look the part or whatever. Yeah, but we're all relaxed and everything, and they said it more than once. So I said, what? He said, man, no, I'm sitting down in the lunchroom table. This brother just voluntarily just giving me this information because I could kind of tell maybe he was starting to feel like, man, I'm about to get up out of here. He said, wait, that's not it. He said, another meeting. He said, one of them just blatantly said, why is he here? I said, what? What do you mean? Why? Like they just didn't know who you were? He said, oh, they know who I was. Because you ain't going to be in no meeting like that unless you was somebody. But somebody asked during the meeting in front of him, why is he here? He said, the higher you go. He said, the higher you go. He kept saying that to me at that table. Then he told me they started doing quiet fire tactic moves. What they call not filling him in with certain bits and pieces. And see, this is something that happens, and you guys, all black people have experienced this thing. As I said, the workplace is their environment. They started hitting him with this bits and pieces of information. Information that they probably should have given him, but they hit him with bits and pieces of information. So now when he gets the information late, they make it seem as if he wasn't paying attention. Now, we're not talking about this ain't a BA, this ain't a PM. We're talking about a higher level of a director position. Qualified, probably much more qualified than others. And see, you got to understand, a lot of times when you go into these environments, they're still looking at you as the good times Negro, where they're trying to look at that stereotype and they're trying to paint it off as if, well, this is just a project nigga. He's not on our level, but you could be making close or around maybe the same amount of money as they're making. So they don't want to see a Claire or a Bill Huxtable. That's not what they want to see. They want to look at you. If they want to look at you in a way, they want to look at you from again, the Rosewood mentality. Now you white, right? So you're at the highest level of white supremacy. You're at the highest level with the totem pole. But right across the street, you got Rosewood, where you got black on this, black on that. Now it's segregated. Remember, this is a whole apartheid white supremacist system in Rosewood. But the black folks are doing pretty damn good. They're like, well, hell, y'all was just slaves just 5 minutes ago. And I ain't never had a piano. So the piano might be an Azure certificate. It might be a skill set. It might just be by the simple fact you coming in doing your job. And you're well, and you thrive at it. So sometimes they'll be hating and they'll be doing little stuff like that too. So, just don't be surprised. This is in every place in the workplace, especially in the tech field. I'll say corporate, in the corporate arena. So I'm surrounded I'll give y'all just an environment that I've been in. I'm surrounded by, I'll say subpar Bob. Don't really know nothing. He really don't know the skill sets that I've had and the technology I've been around. And he's bare minimum mediocre at best. Just blonde and present. Just bare minimum mediocre at best. You could tell he's mediocre in his wordplay. He's mediocre in his language arts. He can't really get a sentence together. He's not convincing at all. He's just not convincing. He's not even convincing to his household. He's not. He don't get no respect. Man, I don't get no respect. Nobody respects me or whatever. I said, well, hell, take charge. So now, since he gets a little bit of management position, now he wants to throw that around. You see what I'm saying? So you'll have those kind of mentalities up in there too. You see what I'm saying? So, I'm just kind of adding on. I'm just kind of adding on to these little and they're micro. I call them micromanagement, microaggressions. You'll have a lot of that going on. They don't really want to say what it is. They'll just say something else. It'll be very vague. But I'm getting now to the point of learning, and I thought I knew this already, but to just go back with it, hit them back with it. Hey, I thought you asked me that question before. Because see, now that makes us in an awkward situation, because now he has to come back and say, well, yeah, and now I gotta lie again. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. Let's just dig a fucking grave now. Let's just keep on lying. Because I know that's not what this is about. But just go ahead and keep digging. Because I'm gonna let you keep digging it. I'm gonna make you say what it really needs to be. Because you don't want to say it because you're uncomfortable of what you've been sent to do. So, that's another thing you could do. Because the situation is at hand anyway. You know that they're up to something. So you could be like, hey, did I just give you, I thought I gave you that information a little bit ago. Oh, well, I'm just checking to see if there's some updates. And I'm thinking to myself, well, motherfucker, you can see that in every email. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing I forgot. I just thought about it. You get all the major emails. So you can't say that you didn't see any new projects coming up. You can't say that. You get them probably before I do. But you're coming to me asking, well, are you, is there anything new or anything? I'm like, okay, look, just say, nigga, I'm watching you. But you don't want to say that because I'm doing my job. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times that overseer mentality, it plays out in the workplace because they got to feel like they stepping on somebody. Now, if there's no blacks around, let's be very clear. People say, oh, well, how could race soldiers go against each other? Very simple. Look at the history. If none of us around, they'll turn and eat each other alive. They'll turn and eat each other alive. Yes, they will. It won't be all hunky dory. But if you're around, they gonna try to eat you first. And another thing I was gonna get into, which I didn't really get to talk about before, is the 6 to 24 months of hazing. Now, what is that? Well, your first 6 months to 24 months. At first, maybe your first couple months, you thinking it's cool. And then you start getting these weird statements and these weird, you're like, okay, where did this come from? This is kind of strange because I didn't do anything wrong. But they'll make it seem as if you did. And you'll be feeling like, well, damn, I must have did something wrong. That's a hazing period. A lot of race soldiers at work will do that. What it is they'll start giving you a hard time around that 6-month mark. It could be 90 days. It could be 90 days. The 6-month part, every black person knows this. You get around the 6-month part. Okay, then after that, after the 6-month part, where you get a little bit more proficient, they renew it after a while. Another 90 days out, you look like, okay, 9 months to 12, they start fucking with you again. Have y'all ever experienced that where they start messing with you again? You're like, okay, what's really going on? What's up with this dude? It'd be a few of them. Then the year mark comes around. Year mark to maybe 14 months. I've seen a pattern of this. I've seen a pattern. So that's why I kind of broke down the months. So around maybe the 13th, in between 12 to 14 months, here comes the new Negro. So now they'll transfer that. They'll start messing with him. Oh, he's part of the team now. And then 24 months now, that's your 2-year mark. So now you're proficient in everything you need. You're okay, now you're ready for your promotion. They start fucking with you again. So that's that, I say the 6 to 24 month hazing period. After 24 months, a lot of times where you felt like you done got comfortable now you feel like you kind of talk a little shit. You know what I'm saying? Now you done got a little uppity. Oh, he's kind of uppity now. But by that time, you done passed all your probations, all that kind of stuff. Around the 2-year mark, you notice you start getting a little uppity. You ever notice that? Right after your 2-year mark, you see how uppity niggas get? I start getting real uppity. Hold on. Well, I'm getting order. No. We'll talk about that later. Let's get to this right over here. Around 24 months, I start getting uppity. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because see, now I'm comfortable. I'm real proficient. And I'm just not going to let you do whatever you want to do. I got a little more leeway because I got just a little bit more experience behind me. So I'll break this down further later.